Hello, my name is Abby Kirkezi, and I am this year's recipient for the Distinguished Leadership Award. I took a class actually in high school called NASA Hunch, and basically it's essentially the same thing that we do in my AAA club, where we work with NASA and we're given a set of problems and you get in a group, pick whatever one you want to do, and then you spend the whole year working on it. I liked it. I liked getting my hands dirty. I liked the whole process behind it, and then just evolved. I started my sophomore year because I didn't want to start freshman year. I was too nervous about that. I spent a lot of time kind of staying more in the background, seeing how it works, seeing the whole process behind start to finish, how to do the proposal, how to write all the other stuff, and then given the role of stepping up, I finally was able to, all right, now I'm comfortable. So I just found it and loved it. And it's just kind of like overseeing, delegating, also helping, making sure that we're still in the right direction the whole year. This was last 2 years, that was what we did. It was called AMSTAR. It was an autonomous boat. So it wasn't just the construction part side of it, it was actually all sides of the engineering that you could think of, like electrical and coding and all of that. I didn't have the confidence to be able to stand in front of a group of people and be passionate about it, and verbally and showingly be passionate about it and want to help other people. So it's really weird. It's really weird to see, but I've gained the confidence enough to be able to be okay with it and be willing to be a leader when I need to be. Turns out that I ended up being a lot better than I thought I was going to be. So I just had to do that one leap of faith and go for it. So I want to work in some sort of design scenario where it's like, oh, we have to design a spacecraft to go to Mars, like manned mission to go to Mars, like that sort of thing is where I see myself going. I just have to see how to get there. Don't be afraid to stand out. I guess take those leaps, take those steps to just kind of do it. Just try it. Even if you don't like it, you can say you've done it. You can say like, I tried it, I did it, I don't like it, all right, I'll move on. But you never know what you'll like and what you won't like if you don't do it. It's like, live your life. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Fahad Abu, and I'm this year's winner of the MAE Diversity and Inclusion Award. One thing that got me into engineering was, as a kid, I used to build paper airplanes and do origami, and I'm also fascinated in space. My dad also was a mechanic at a hotel, so he also used to fix things around the house, and that was one thing that inspired me. So I'll say the one thing that got me into being a student leader was remembering my experience during that time. It was pretty, I wouldn't say hard, but difficult. I had a lot of problems, and I didn't want anybody else to go through that, so I took it upon myself to come back and help the people who go through these similar problems. With this student I met, she was from Uganda. I think she had just transferred over here, and she was trying to get accustomed to, and I can tell she really wanted to do well, similar to me. Like, I can sense the feeling. Like, I assured her, like, we can meet after class, and I'll help you. For her to come to me and ask me for help was pretty fulfilling, to know that I can help somebody get through a similar difficulty that I experienced. And maybe a year or two later, I saw her in the hallway, and she's still doing chemical engineering, which is a good sign that that moment helped her. So I'm proud of that. The one thing I guess a student leader does is challenge the students and challenge their thinking, help them think a different way. Because, as an engineer, we have to think as problem solvers, so helping them get adjusted to that is something I enjoy. The one goal or dream I really had is to, go back to my neighborhood or any school that I've been to and, show the students what they can get. One thing I realized maybe last year was an engineer isn't defined by the piece of paper, it's the things that you do. So just, participating in clubs, research, just putting yourself out there, because, that's what really matters. Like, you'll do well in your classes, like, you won't fail, but make sure you get that experience too. One thing I'd like to continue is working on space mission design. I guess space is the future, but there's a lot of resources in space and a lot of things we could discover, so migrating to there and helping with the development and exploration of that is something I want to continue.
Hi, my name is Ellise Blake. I'm this year's recipient for the Young Professional Award. I work at Thermo Fisher, as you said, and when I was hired, I was just an intern, but that kind of got very quickly funneled to just one person. He was leading a very large project, maybe $5 million on site, and then he quit. So everything that he was doing kind of got transferred to me. So now I'm working on continuous improvement of that asset, which basically a 20-foot tall blender. I guess I didn't expect to be in charge of so much so soon. I was still learning how the processes worked at our company. So when I had to learn those processes, I had to do a few iterations because I didn't do them right the first time. I had to learn along the way. And now I'm able to take a project from start to finish, which is pretty exciting. I really like airfoils. I like learning about how they work and what the limitations are on them, which is kind of what I did in my research. One of the limitations of an airfoil is that once it reaches its stall angle, it can't generate lift anymore, which basically makes it ineffective. And one of the ways that researchers have combated that is by putting a cavity or little hole on the surface of the airfoil. So we compared a hole at the beginning of the airfoil and then one towards the end, and we found out that the one at the end was better at delaying the stall. While studying at UB, I was trying to handle classes along with work, along with research, I'm also in an engineering sorority. So my number one skill that I learned from UB was time management. After going through all of my coursework at UB for engineering, I'm a lot more prepared to handle problems because engineering is all about problem solving essentially. And now whenever a problem comes up, it's easier to set along a path for how you want to implement a fix. In March of 2023, I plan on doing the Appalachian Trail. That is a long distance backpacking trip. You start in Georgia and you walk all the way to Maine, and it takes 5 to 7 months. I want to do it by myself. I would say to ask questions, start conversations with your friends, with your teachers. That's how you learn. And every time that you make a mistake, it's okay. That's when you learn the right way to actually do something. And then the next time you do it, you know how to accomplish it.
I'm Abdullah Islam, and I'm this year's winner of the Undergraduate Researcher Award. A lot of the time I'm working with, at home, like in construction. So I've built like rabbit hutches. Most days we try to orient it around research. So we work with like copper nanostructured particles, nanowires, and nanoplates. We're synthesizing these things and optimizing them for mostly like flexible electronics. I worked with developing a copper molecular ink, so it's particle based. So I took a copper precursor and essentially developed that synthesis in terms of like the different solvents in there, kind of optimize the ratios of those solvents. I studied that in terms of the temperature range that needs to be sintered at for optimal electrical conductivity, and I guess that was the most significant thing.
Stick with the professor. I feel like once you find somebody and you find an area that you can really enjoy and you can really dive into, allow them to kind of guide you into growing that depth in that field. I feel like that's really helped me here with Dr. Ren. I mean, there's just so much to learn and there's so much you can gain.
So I'm planning to go into graduate studies here at UB in the mechanical engineering department with the specialty in materials, getting deeper into the field, copper inks and flexible electronics and actually designing the electronics themselves. I would say to really try to figure out what you enjoy, whether that's like in a club, with like different club projects. In SAE they have like the Baja car, and AIAA they have like that giant airplane that they built, the TBF contest, which is pretty awesome. Or even research. I mean, I think it's just finding that area where you're able to get into it and spend a lot of time, and I think that's where you develop the most valuable skills.
I'm Casey Hayes. I'm this year's winner of the Cheers Award. When I was younger, I found really a lot of interest in Legos. Throughout high school, I was good at math and science, so I just felt like engineering was kind of the way I should go. And I found aerospace and mechanical because I want to work in the defense and aerospace industry, working on some like cool high-tech stuff that would help people. So that's why I went towards aerospace. In nanosat, I was the guidance, navigation, and control lead for the Falcon mission. So it basically entails me determining where the satellite is pointing, where it is located in the orbit, and how do I point it somewhere else. Well, I mean, I've completely changed as a person throughout the past 4 years. In nanosat specifically, I've learned how to work more independently and harder, and just really learn independently. So in classwork, I could always, listen to the professor, have him teach me. But nanosat really made me push myself more to learn on my own. Definitely when I came into engineering, I never thought I'd be able to work on the stuff I'm working on and do the stuff I was doing. I remember when I was a freshman, I joined robotics, and I never thought I could be the lead. And it really wasn't until actually the lead of the project I was working on, he was graduating, he reached out to me and asked me if I would be the lead. It really boosted my confidence, and I really learn that I can do this. Everyone is lost. Me included, we're all lost. We have no idea what's going on until you do it, and afterwards you look back, and then you really understand how much you've learned. I mean, it wasn't until I looked back at the project I did sophomore and junior year that, well, I could do that in a few days if we want to now. Like, it's so much simpler, and that's just you learning. It's a growing pain that you have to go through, but afterwards it's really worth it. So I am going to work at Northrop Grumman in the space sector, work on hopefully some satellites or some rockets, some cool stuff. And I will be pursuing a master's degree in aerospace, hopefully at Georgia Tech or UCLA.